Welcome to N24 Headline News in the Heart of it. I'm Vicki A. Lee, your anchor for today. Let's take a look at the top news of the hour. In an official White House statement issued yesterday, President Donald Trump declared an emergency in Washington, D.C. ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration next week. The outgoing president mobilized federal assistance to aid the district's emergency response efforts from January 11th until the 24th. This emergency declaration authorizes the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to coordinate disaster relief efforts provided at federal funding. An internal bulletin from the FBI warned that more armed protests across the U.S. might erupt later this week and last throughout Biden's inauguration, City News reported, citing ABC. An anonymous official said that armed protests are being orchestrated at all 50 state capitals from January 16th to Inauguration Day on the 20th, with protests on Capitol Hill planned from January 17th to the 20th. On December 19th, prior to the Capitol Hill riot on January 6th, the FBI had released a bulletin to law enforcement across the U.S., warning armed attacks on legislatures. Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf resigned from his post, CBC News reported. Wolf had been serving as DHS Secretary in an acting capacity since November 2019 and had intended to remain until Inauguration Day, but decided to step down in light of the Capitol attack last week. Wolf had publicly condemned the violence dispensed by protesters against law enforcement, calling the riot, quote, sickening and, quote, unconscionable in an official statement. Wolf had urged the president and other elected officials to likewise denounce the violence that had transpired in the Capitol building. Independent news outlet True North has compiled and dated all the COVID-19 rule violations committed by Canadian politicians. The transgressions date back to April 2020, with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Premier Doug Ford, Liberal Health Minister Patty Hajdu as repeated offenders of several COVID-19 restrictions throughout 2020. The list includes the recent scandal of Finance Minister Rod Phillips, who secretly vacationed in St. Bart's during the lockdown and tried to cover it up on social media. Following the media circus, Phillips resigned from his post as Ontario's finance minister. A City of Toronto news release announced that next Monday, the Metro Toronto Convention Centre will be home to a provisional vaccination clinic for frontline workers. Mayor John Tory said that the proof of concept facility will be immunizing healthcare workers in the shelter system and healthcare workers administering the COVID-19 vaccines themselves. The clinic will offer 250 doses of vaccines daily for 3 weeks and second doses to the same recipients another 3 weeks later. The facility will be open for 6 weeks in total, operating from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Toronto's top doctor Eileen De Villa and Mayor Tory have requested the Ontario government to implement 10-day emergency paid sick leaves, as workers need to feel safe to take time off work to prevent the disease's spread. The request followed a Toronto Board of Health report that stated only 42% of working Canadians have access to paid sick leave, and that number is just 10% among low-wage and frontline workers, CP24 reported. The Board of Health also said that the federal government's recovery sickness benefit of $500 per week for up to 2 weeks is a significant step, but it's not enough. Councillor Joe Cressy, who also chairs the Toronto Board of Health, said that 60% of Toronto's recorded workplace outbreaks have been in frontline settings. According to data released by online dating site Seeking Arrangement, University of Toronto students account for the most sugar babies in the country, with a total of 1,427 users, BlogTO reported. If you're unfamiliar with the term, a sugar baby is a younger counterpart to an older, often wealthier sugar daddy or mommy in a transactional dating arrangement. Seeking Arrangement markets itself as a platform to connect students with, quote, successful benefactors who help them avoid student debt and secure a better future. Toronto is one of the top cities on the platform, with its Canadian user base ranking third in the world and growing at about 3% annually. More news is on the way, but first, let's take a short break. Remember to download msmu.me, follow In24 on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Telegram to keep up to date with uninterrupted news. Welcome back to In24 in the heart of it. I'm your host Vicki and you're watching Headline News. Let's take a look at the top news of the hour. Hamilton Regional Laboratory Medicine Program has apologized after giving incorrect COVID-19 results to 31 people in Hamilton, Burlington, and the surrounding area. Of the 31 people, 16 were COVID-19 positive but were told to be negative, and 15 who were COVID-19 negative received positive test results. The laboratory said that everyone who had received the incorrect results was contacted to address the issue. Prime Minister Trudeau reshuffled his cabinet after Innovations Minister Navdeep Bains unexpectedly announced his retirement from politics for familial reasons. Generally, Canadian Prime Ministers reshuffle their team when a cabinet member declines to run for the next election, Reuters reported. François-Philippe Champagne from the Foreign Ministry will replace Bains, while Marc Garneau will become Canada's fourth Foreign Minister in just over 4 years. One of Champagne's top priorities as Innovations Minister would be deciding whether to allow China's Huawei Technologies to supply next-generation equipment for 5G networks. Giancarlo Fiorella, a senior researcher with Bellingcat, an open-source intelligence agency gathering photos and videos of last week's Capitol attack, said that there's a massive risk of misidentifying rioters from the viral footage. Fiorella went on to say that the process of figuring out people's needs to be very thorough and complete. On Monday at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Amazon took alternative social networking site Parlor off its hosting service, citing increased threats of violence on the site after the Capitol riot, RT reported. In a letter to Parlor, Amazon Web Services said that the increase of violent content on the site breached their terms, NBC News confirmed. The platform was frequented by the likes of Trump supporters, conspiracy theorists, and right-winged extremists. Last Friday, Google removed the Parlor app from its Play Store, with Apple following their footsteps after offering the company 24 hours to amend their policy against posts inciting violence. The Department of Defense told Reuters that the U.S. military has not stopped a troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, flouting a new law that prohibits drawdowns without prior risk assessment sent to the Congress from the Pentagon. An official Pentagon statement claimed that there are currently no new orders that impact the conditions-based drawdown that is estimated to reach 2,500 troops by January 15th. Reuters predicts that the Pentagon's decision will draw the ire from both the Republican and Democratic lawmakers opposed to troop cuts. However, if drawdown is not done by May 2021, it would endanger the peace process that's underway since the 2019 agreement with the Taliban. The Washington Post reported that the U.S. Supreme Court will not accelerate the challenges Trump has filed against the presidential election. According to the court document, the claims were rejected without comment or noted dissent. Trump and his allies had filed some of the petitions asking courts to move faster in December 2020, but those haven't been responded until now. However, these cases will become moot on January 20th when Biden will be inaugurated. Roy Allela, a 25-year-old engineer and innovator from Kenya, has invented gloves that translate sign language gestures into audible speech, Collective Evolution reported. Dubbed Sign.io, the gloves will help bridge the communication gap between the hearing impaired and those who do not understand sign language. Allella's gloves contain sensors on each finger that register the positioning and movement to read sign, which is then converted to the spoken word using text-to-speech technology via Bluetooth. Thank you so much for watching In24 Headline News. Remember to download the msmu.me app or visit us at in24.ca to get the latest news. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Telegram for latest uninterrupted news. I'm Vicki A. Lee with In24. Have a wonderful day.